Welcome to the Patterson Library Connection. In this episode of our podcast, we'll share good news and library happenings, talk to fun and interesting guests, and connect with our Patterson community. I'm Lillie Musenti, the PR and event coordinator here at the library. In today's episode, I'll be talking with three wonderful artists, Sharon Nakazato, Georgine Honoham, and Joann Zwolski. Together, they have collaborated on some amazing and beautiful work that we are lucky enough to have hanging here in our library. Stay tuned. It's going to be a great talk. Hi, Adam.
Hey, Lillie.
How's everything going?
I'm doing okay. Getting ready for winter. Here we go.
Yeah. Right?
Halloween's over. The 80-degree Halloween is over, and now it's like us head towards a actual winter time, seasonal weather. I don't know.
I know. Today's the first cool day. I think it's actually feeling a little crispy out there. I liked it, though.
I'm getting a hint of it, like a hint of some Thanksgiving, a hint of Christmas. Maybe these wildfires will be put out with some rain. Let's get some rain coming in here.
Yeah, let's hope so. We definitely can use it. I know the holidays will be here before we know it.
I think I've seen some Christmas trees up already, and some. I think people are skipping straight to it this year.
It seems like that. Actually, I just came from the senior holiday luncheon over at the Patterson Rec Department, and Matt and Meg and the gang over there do such a fantastic job. The seniors are so funny and warm and friendly, and every year we try to sponsor some music that just kind of makes the day a little bit more fun. They dance and sing, and people sing in their chairs and dance along, including me, and we had such a great time. I really have to give a shout out to Matt and Meg. The food was amazing. The people had a great time, and Tony Traina and his band are fantastic. They do so many different shows. Over the years, they've been here and did the Sinatra show for us, and the City Express Band, I think, is what they were today. They just do an amazing job, and they're always fun to listen to. And they did everything today from Motown to Sinatra and Dean Martin to some jazz and some swing, and everyone had a great time. So it was a fun day. But that's a holiday luncheon, so we're there already.
Well, that sounds amazing, and to pull off that amount of repertoire from all those eras that's a lot to do as a band. I know that. And the seniors there, they actually know how to dance for real, and they still dance.
Yes,
my
they
generation
do.
Isn't so much a dancing generation. I mean, we dance, but we're not like.
Hey, I'm still trying. I love to dance. My husband, not so much. I got him dance lessons at Fred Astaire Dance Studio about a year and a half ago. We didn't go yet. So we will get there. I really do want to learn. My parents were amazing dancers, and people used to love to watch them dancing. I can hold my own a little bit, but nothing like that. So we're going to work on it. That's like my 2025 first thing on my list to do is go take those lessons.
There you go. I feel like that's in my future too, as like a joint gift for my wife too, because she did ballet. She's from Argentina, so they have the tangos.
Nice.
We danced at my wedding when we went down there we went to Buenos Aires for our wedding back in 2016, cool. And I had to dance in front of people. And it worked out, but I prefer to be on stage with an instrument, so I don't have to dance. I'm limited by that guitar chord.
Your creativity's in a different area,
exactly.
So that's all right.
I dance in my own way.
Well, you know what? I think we all find our little niche, but I am going to work on the dance part. It was fun, and the seniors really. You're right. They got up. They did some swing. They did a little bit of everything. They just are good at it all. So it was fun to see them.
It sounds like it was a great afternoon, a lot of fun.
It was. It was so great, and it's awesome to be able to tell people about it. And so now let me tell you some more stuff, and on to some good news. So one of the things that I want to talk about is our fundraiser with rock icon Ellen Foley. It was such a big success. We had a great time, and Ellen was fantastic. She shared so many great stories about her career in music, TV, and film, and it was just a phenomenal night. we actually had a house full of people here, and it was so interesting to see the questions that people came up with and what they knew about Ellen and what they actually thought were some facts that she straightened out a little bit. It was like really fun. She talked about her film with Tom Cruise and her experience with Meatloaf singing on Paradise by the Dashboard Lights. And she just hit on everything, her Broadway experience, and she was just so entertaining and so fun. And it was just an amazing night. People enjoyed the food that we had gotten from McKinney and Doyle and Soros and Aversano's. We had wine. I'm going to shout out the businesses that donated the wine. It was Haviland Hollow Wine and Spirits, By-Right Liquors in Brewster, Kent Liquors, and Jerry Dawes. They all donated the wine for the event. So, along with wine and food, there was over 40 prizes, raffle prizes that were donated by local businesses and organizations. Everything from tickets to Ridgefield Theater to McKinney and Doyle gift certificates and sports memorabilia that was signed, gift baskets filled with great stuff, Trader Joe's grocery bags filled with items. But such a great just a great evening, and Patterson's gave us $100 to raffle off, and Native Landscaping gave us 2 trees. So it was just a lot of fun, and there were so many restaurant gift certificates and to the gym, to Blue Olive. I can't tell you how generous our local businesses were to us. So thank you to all of them, and thank you to everyone who came out and supported the event. It was really a wonderful event, and the friends did a fantastic job, and because of everyone's generosity, we were able to raise over $3,000. So it was a success on every note. So thank you all again. And thank you especially to Ellen Foley, who donated her time and made the night such a fantastic event for all of us. So thank you, Ellen. And our second piece of good news is that our budget vote passed. I am so thrilled that this vote passed, because for me, it means more than just a budget vote. It means that we have community support for what we do here at the library, and that is always so important, because everything we do here really is to serve the community. We really think long and hard about the resources we offer, the programs we do, the events we hold, and everything is to serve everyone in this community, to really help people and to provide services and resources that promote growth and education, lifelong learning, cultural experiences that are also entertaining and fun for both adults and kids. And it's how we know that we are of value to the residents in this community. So a vote yes means so much more than just the financial support that budget means. It also means a great deal to all of us here on the staff. So thank you so much to this community and the residents of Patterson for supporting the library. We really appreciate all of you, and we are happy to serve this community. So that's our good news. And now I'd like to introduce our guests, Sharon Nakazato, Georgine Honoham, and Joann Zwolski. Thank you all for being here. I'm really excited to be able to chat with you guys.
So are we. It's great to be here. Thank you for having us. It's a delight.
Oh, this is really special for us, too. Every day I've gotten to look at your artwork that is on exhibit here in the library. It is beautiful, and we have had so many people complimenting the work and wanting to know a little bit more about it. So we're thrilled that you're here to be able to talk about it and share the experience of not only creating your own individual pieces, but this beautiful collaborative exhibit. You have worked on each piece individually and together, and I find that fascinating. So Sharon, why don't we start with you? How did the idea for this project come about?
Well, actually, that probably would be better fielded by Georgine, because it started with Georgine and Joann and my wanting to become more friends with them before the pandemic. And so you two had gotten together and had started talking about some collaborative work.
Well, Joann and I knew each other from plein air painting, and we had also taken part in another collaborative process prior to this. So we got together for lunch one day to say, hey, look at my stuff. Let me see what you've done. What's going on with you? And as we sat there for lunch, we said, why don't we try to do this all together? So that's kind of how we started.
Right. We were sharing the work, and it just popped into our head. Let's do it together.
Yeah.
And then came the pandemic,
Yeah.
right shortly after that.
Very shortly after that, right. Well, Sharon and I also were, right before the pandemic, having a show together. So we were working together. So all three of us have been working in time. But yeah, then the pandemic happened, and we had to be very inventive and creative. And we enlisted the post office to help us. And so we started, we said we could do this. So we started mailing artwork to each other.
And it had to be small. It had to fit in a 5x7 mailing envelope.
Right.
So,
Right. Yes. But, it was a lot of fun because, in the pandemic, you're by yourself, but you get to go to your mailbox, and there was like a present for you. And if you were lucky to get a present from Sharon, she always made sure she had unique stamps put on these things. It was like an extra, a beautiful packaging. And I just couldn't wait to get to the mailbox. And I was like a little kid, and my goodness, what did they do? And then you'd open and you say, are they kidding? I'm supposed to build on this?
She expects me to do something with this? What, are you out of your mind?
So explain a little bit about the process. So first you would do something and then mail the piece to each other, and you would all add to the piece and change it. And tell us a little bit about that.
We would each start pieces. So it wasn't like we had one piece and then we just passed it around. Each of us would start and pass it on. And meanwhile, we're working on whatever's come to us.
We did have a system of
goes to
order.
whom.
How it went from Joann to me to Sharon. I think that was it.
And then as time evolved,
then it went
we
just
dissolved
all over
that
the
system
place.
because we were very creative and we were having such a good time. And sometimes, I would mail it to her. She would, we just started playing with it even more and more.
Right, but in the beginning, we were kind of stayed in order, and the rule was when you got something, anything you wanted to do to it, you did to it, and then you mailed it on and said good luck.
And that's the part that really interested me the most. Honestly, when Sharon and I first talked about the exhibit and everything that's going to follow, the whole process of collaborating on something was interesting enough. But when you are changing someone else's work and adding to it and just kind of doing what you want to somebody else's work, I personally thought, how does your ego handle that? Like, are you upset when somebody changes something that you did that you liked? Or, I wondered about that. You guys are still friends, so I assume that all turned out well. But tell us about that.
I think if you saw the beginning pieces, you would be less inclined to worry about it. I mean, the things that were sent around, including an empty CD disc cover, a piece of broken plastic that had been packaging for something else.
Yes.
Weird stuff got sent around, or just, a piece of paper with a scribble on it. That was the beginning. Yes. And then it was like, okay, what do you do with this scribble?
Yeah. And it was wonderful to be able to be challenged and to think outside the box. But there were times that a piece would come to us and there were marks or colors or images that you really didn't want to touch because it just was saying the right thing. Then there were times that I had to just tear everything up and restart it. So that's the creative process. And we were willing to allow each of us to explore the creative process in our own way. which also added to our creative process. Has helped us grow as artists. And that, I think, has been one of the most exciting parts of this project, is how they have taught me, and I hope I have shared a little bit of my knowledge and creativity with them.
Well, that takes a great deal of generosity amongst all of you, both as artists and as people. And did you hit any brick walls? Did you have any arguments or disagreements, or did it just really run smoothly?
I think, just to back up a little bit, I think that for me, the glue to all of this was the deep respect we have for each other's work. It wouldn't have worked if one of us felt like we were the teacher and they were the student, because all three of us have been teachers, by the way, and we have that experience. So the respect that we had for each other, and then the friendship and the willingness to be a support and simply be there for each other and say, what comes up for you with this? And we could do that. Pardon me. We did that. We called it conversations because we were actually conversing.
That's interesting,
right. But
too.
Not to say that we were perfect, because we were. We would have discussions or...
but not in the beginning
not
so
in the,
much.
Because
in the beginning, it was a lot by mail.
Right. We sent notes to each other.
Yeah, sometimes there was a note like, I did this on this piece. I don't know what you think.
Or just good luck.
Yeah, or just good luck. Sometimes it was just good luck. And I think the thing that made it so interesting, at least for me, was how very different the three of us were in our own individual work, which you can see on the walls if you look at what's hanging here. And so it was, many ways, it was kind of a learning experience and an experimenting experience, because Joann and Sharon would use material that I wasn't all that familiar with.
Right.
And I would say, ooh, that might be interesting. Let me try that.
Did you start out with a particular vision for a piece, or did that evolve as each of you added something? Did you have an idea what it should look like at the end, or were you open to whatever happened to it?
I think that, for me anyway, no, not an idea of what should happen at the end. That would come sometimes in the middle, though, where I would see something and then I would begin to have a complete idea about it. But if I passed it on, I had to give that up.
Yes, right, exactly.
I also think, as we've been doing this for a couple of years now.
Right.
So as time has gone on, we are more inclined to consult with each other. We have these wonderful lunches together.
Yes.
And say, where do you think this piece should go? But that was not part of the original conversation. In the beginning, it was let it go where it wants to go.
In the beginning, it was just a verbal communication. Not a verbal communication, it was a visual communication. As over the years has evolved, we have added more of a verbal communication. And we curated a little bit more to try to fine-tune it, type of a thing. But that was part of the excitement of not knowing. And I think, at least in my practice, I really love that aspect of the creative process of not knowing where is this going to take me until the piece finally says, you're done, and I think as soon as I would feel it was done, I would generate a new piece when we were doing one at a time. And you did sort of the same thing, I think. So we're showing a group of pieces right now, but an artist does not always show everything they have done. We haven't shown all the pieces that we said, oh no, that should not be seen.
I would imagine the more discussion you had on something like this, and I may be wrong, but does it affect the spontaneity that you bring to the project and the final outcome? If the more you discuss it, does that change the collaboration and what it would be if it's more discussion and more fine-tuned, as you said? Does that make it more of a planned piece as opposed to something that's just started out, like you said, with no discussion?
Really good point. Because we, as Sharon has pointed out, we have friendship and great respect for each other, for our work and who we are. Even though we might have conversations and say, maybe you should go this way or that way, once we bring it to our studio and we interact with it, we listen to what they have said, but then we might say, I don't know if I totally agree with that. And we might change it a little bit more. That's the beauty of this piece.
Or disregard what the other person says completely.
And luckily, we don't write things down and keep it in stone. It's very organic. And so we will hear that we should maybe develop this area or work on this or add this. And then it's just a wonderful suggestion. It's a wonderful, but as soon as you bring it back to your studio and as soon as you start to become engaged with it, it becomes a whole different experience, and
it becomes yours for that period of time while you have the brush in your hand or the glue stick or whatever you're doing.
Right, well said.
It's yours for that period of time. And then you pass it. If it's not done and you don't think it's done, you pass it on. Now, we've gotten, I think, over time to say this one because we've learned each other's thought process a little bit more, we'll get to maybe a piece has gone around 2 or 3 times, and we'll finally say, this needs Sharon's touch, or this needs Joann's touch. So instead of sticking with a planned mailing order, it goes to the person whose touch is required.
Or sometimes when we get together for these lunches, as we're going to do after this, actually, all 3 of us have pieces in the car that we're going to exchange. What we'll do is just pull it out and say, who wants this next?
And then you hear silence. And we see these funny faces say, "Whoa," and then you find somebody finally says, "Okay, I'll see what I can do."
Exactly.
So each of you has a different style and approach to your art. And when we look at your pieces, can you tell who has left their mark in their own stylistic way? I know certain things have been pointed out that I can see are very much Sharon's style, because you have done a lot of exhibits here for us, and so I'm a little more familiar with your work. So I can see, that looks like Sharon. Like, I could see what you've done. Is that true for each of you?
Well, I guess, so there are two things that I would say about that. One of them is that a lot depends on the medium. That is, a lot depends on the materials that are being used. And I think all 3 of us would agree that we have expanded that enormously through this interaction, because we come up with things that even we didn't know we knew how to do. And certainly with other people showing us that these things are possible. But the other thing is that for me, so my training was for a number of years in Japan with a master Asian calligrapher, brush calligrapher. So that's a very, very strict discipline and very much reliant on line, form, and space, use of space, and so on. So white space is not empty space in Asian painting or in Asian calligraphy either. So that sort of vision was expanding but also limiting my work personally. So then as I throw something out to either of them, they come with their whole totally different range of imaginings. And when they throw that into the mix, it explodes what I can do personally.
Right, right. White space is to be, applied paint and color. I love color. I love texture. And she would send me these white spaces, and I know who she is. I know what how her work is, and but white space would be, oh my goodness, I better fill this up. But then when I would sit with it and really be engaged with it, sometimes I would just let that white space be, and just put a mark or two on it and quickly send it to Georgine. When you say, does our work, of course, who we are definitely is always brought to the piece. It was a period of time that I was going through, I was doing some work with hearts, and every piece had a heart on it. And then we went to lunch one day, and very quickly they said, "Enough hearts, Joann." And which is really good, because it needs to be said.
Well, and similarly, I was told, enough with the faces.
Yes.
Because I put faces on a lot of things, or eyeballs, or something.
And you take it well. Like
it was
you're
like,
still friends.
Okay, time to think of a new idea.
Yes,
Did you learn new techniques in working like this?
Oh, yes.
definitely.
Absolutely.
So what did you learn, Sharon? What was something new and different for you?
Well, for me, because I came from that very, very strict discipline, and you study the masters, and it has to be so perfect and so right, and then even coming back to Western media, still there was this idea of reaching some kind of, quote, I used to call it competency, a skill level that would be immediately visible, and so that's very hampering. And I would have all these ideas for things, and have a studio full of all these experiments that I tried, and left sort of a quarter of the way through because I was afraid that it really wasn't, what a real artist would do. Well, now that we've been forced to take a look at something and say, oh my God, this is where do I go from here? I could immediately translate that to, I do a plein air painting, I bring it back, and I think, oh my God, this is awful. But instead of throwing it away, I say, oh, if I treat this like I have any of the pieces,
turn it upside down.
Yeah, turn it upside down. Right? Or I can cut it up, or I can use another medium. I can glue something on top of it.
Maybe some,
and I do. Yeah,
maybe some sprinkles.
Yes.
I think that what Sharon is touching on, something that I think was very, very true for me, is that feeling of, but this is not, with my own art, this is not coming out the way I want, so I'll put it away and I won't work on it anymore. And instead, you get something that's obviously incomplete, not to say something rude, and you think, well, I'll do something to it and I'll see where it goes. I think the sense of process became more more important to us.
So true. They started, collage also became an experience that I was exploring at the same time, but their collage was different than I had done before. They were injecting, as they said, sequence and strings, gold strings, and all these unusual things that I had never thought of, that brought a sparkle to the piece. And that stopped me in my tracks sometimes, because I had just, I had maybe opened a gift or something, and there was this gorgeous ribbon, and of course I save it, but I never thought of putting it on a piece of artwork. And they through their work, taught me to, again, think outside the box.
So often it seems like you were surprised by what each other did with materials or different mediums and stuff. It wasn't what you expected.
Except they did learn to use more red in their work. Because I love red. Even though you might not see too much red in the work here because I'm showing my landscapes, they do know that red is a color of joy for me. And if they wanted to see me joyous,
So it's your signature color. Do you wear a lot of red?
yeah, at times, yes, I do. I try to, I always am wearing red because I have red cologne on it all the time.
Nice. Nice. One of my favorite colors, too. I get that.
Yeah, joy.
It does bring joy. It always feels like art inspires you. If I'm having a bad day, I walk in here and I love looking at the paintings.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I
Thank
really
you.
enjoy having art around.
That's the highest compliment. Thank you so much.
It really is special for us to work in a place where we come into work and we are surrounded by literature and art, and it is inspiring. It helps us be creative. I know when I'm looking out my office, I don't have a window except through my assistant's office, so I have a very narrow view. But the thing I like most is whatever painting is hanging outside my office, I get to choose. So I lucked out. I've got a great one there now, and I'm very, very particular about what hangs outside that office door because that's what I have to look at for months. So it means a lot. But if it inspires me, it really does make a difference when I write a lot. That's my form of creativity. Right? I'm always writing the press releases or the flyers or the descriptions and all of the writing. But it too is a creative process.
Right.
And when you hit a block, you need to be inspired, and your paintings do that for me. So thank you.
Mentioning hitting a block, I think getting that package in the mail was like a block releaser.
Yes. But
all the time.
You also mentioned literature. And that became a component in our work too. Sometimes every time we would meet, Sharon would bring books, or else we would sit down and say, "Have you read this book? Make sure you get this book and read this one." So literature. It was interesting that you should mention that because we hadn't even discussed that, but it was a component also in our work. We would talk about. Many times you look at artwork and art history and you would carry in these books and you would say, and you would pass it along. And I would read a book on art history or something and I'd pass it along. So besides creating visually, we also broaden our vision of art through many different artistic styles and many different art ways. We also, you mentioned literature, but we also discuss music, because all of this comes into play in our work in many subtle ways, but also in very strong ways. Sometimes when I'm working, I'm very loud. As I play something down, I might slam it down or I might pound on it to get a mark that I want. And that has a sound. That's another art form. And because we are so advocates of the arts, the three of us, and all the arts are important, I think that was a big component of our work too.
So for me, one of my sort of pet aspects to the project, and actually in many other ways that I participate in art activities, is the need that I see really, really huge in our present day to create community. And that's, this library is an absolutely beautiful example of how one goes about doing that. One of the reasons that I think many communities fail is the reason that is for the opposite of why our project has succeeded. And that's why I see our project as being having some larger connotations for people, meaning the things that we've talked about, respect, being able to not compromise on things, but to actually interact with one another and be open to seeing from different perspectives, because every single one of us comes into life with a different perspective.
I think what's so wonderful about this whole project was how it started, like you said, during the pandemic too, and how that must have been such a cathartic thing to do. and being isolated and having that means to come together and work on something. I find it so funny that it was through the post office. It never occurred to me to do anything through the post office during the pandemic. We were so focused on digital stuff and Zoom meetings and Zoom programming and all of that the actual post office piece of it never occurred to me. I find that wonderful because, like you said, that added piece of it being like a present, a surprise.
Yeah, exactly.
How fun is that? Yeah,
Exactly.
we were doing everything by computer. I got really tired of looking at a screen. And I love this whole idea that while you were alone and working, solo on the piece when you got it, it was a very collaborative group effort. And that had to help a lot during a time of such isolation.
That was part of the magic of the whole piece. And that's part of why we decided to share it and show it, is how when you're given challenges, how you can creatively solve those problems that you're given. And just by looking at one thing, like the post office, they're still delivering mail. You don't connect with each other.
Sometimes things were delayed in the mail, so you would get 2 packages at once.
That was really special.
And I think, I'm trying to remember, but I think we were trying to sort of make sure that you're mailing something out almost every week.
Yes.
So, yes, easily. Yeah.
So that, because, boy, if a week came and I didn't get a package, I was very upset and disappointed.
I got a phone call if she didn't get a package.
So you did try to A, you looked forward to it, and B, you felt a responsibility to send something on so that nobody else would be disappointed.
Right.
And getting back to what Sharon said about community, and you know us very well, Sharon, and we really strive to create a sense of community here for the artists, for musicians. We do outdoor concerts, and whenever we can share art in whatever way we can, we do. And it's really important to us. But it is that collaboration that we have with you, and you are also on the Friends of the Great Swamp, and we work with the Historical Society and all of these organizations to build a sense of community so we can share each other's work and share it with the public who may not get to see it. We don't have an art gallery here in Patterson, so we're pretty much it. I know Pauling displays some wonderful work in town and stuff, but here in Patterson, we really do try to fill these hallways and the walls with beautiful artwork, and we are really grateful that the Art East group and individually all you artists are always willing to share because it really is special to so many people. We see families coming in here and they're talking about the art with their children, so it reaches a school level. We had the 4th graders come in and do an art show. We really do try to support as much as we can. So it is sharing it very much and building community. So
it's our complete honor to be part of this community. Complete honor.
If you're appreciating a piece of art, you have to stop and actually look at it. If you're appreciating a piece of music, you have to stop and actually listen to it. It makes you live in the moment.
Yes.
Right.
That's why I love live music.
Right.
I much rather listen to live music.
That's the beauty of, as a visual artist for myself, being in the studio. When I used to work in the studio, I'd listen to like radio or music. And over time, I realized that was it just interfered too much in my creative process. I needed total silence to be able to listen to my thoughts and feel my emotions so that when I did express it visually, it would come strong in my work. You would feel what I felt, I hope, in my work and in our work. So you need that balance.
Yeah. Now I find I can listen to instrumental music, but I can't listen to anything that has words because the words resonate with me so strongly that my mind's gone someplace else.
Yeah. lately we've been starting to use words in our work.
Yes,
These little subtleties. These little,
Yes.
as Georgine had said earlier, this project has continued. This work that we're displaying now was done mostly during the pandemic, a little bit after it, but we have enjoyed our process so much, and now we do meet in person, and we do eat. So that's an art form unto itself, to enjoy the culinary arts of the place that we go. And we have continued this process because we just enjoy it so much.
So looking back, what would you say was the most rewarding part of collaborating?
Well, I think deepening our friendship was very important probably for all of us. I can speak for all of us on that. But also broadening our artistic vision, our artistic appreciation was very, I mean, Joann and Sharon have pushed me to try things and do things that I would never have considered before. And because I think of the three of us, I'm the most traditional in many ways in my approach. They've pushed me to think really very far outside my box, that's for sure. So I think that, and they've exposed me also to the depth of their knowledge about art.
Plus, we've met so many other artists through their friendship. They have other communities of artists that they have engaged in. We don't just stay with each other. We all live in different areas of the county, and we're all very involved in the art world, the arts area of that county. So we have introduced each other to other artists who have also enriched our lives and brought, new vision. Sharon will say, well, you have to go and see this show. I just saw it. Georgine will say, let's all go to this museum and see it because I just got there. And I'll say, come over here, I want you to meet this artist. So that's really, because we don't live so close to each other, they've expanded our vision in so many ways.
Sounds like it's been quite a growing process for all of you in so many different ways.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. So what do you hope the audience takes away from the work, particularly knowing it was a product of multiple artists, different than other exhibits you've done before here, where everyone comes in and appreciates the piece for what it is? This is a little bit different. What do you hope the takeaway is?
I'd like to feel that one because there's something on a sandwich in here anyway. I think what Joann said earlier, the first thing is, so if you walk in here, you'll see one wall has our collaborative pieces on it, and the other two walls in this community room and the hallway have our individual pieces. So I think that I would hope it would be a game for people who come in to take a look at the collaborative pieces and then go around and say, I wonder if I can figure out which one of them did that. Also, going back a little bit to what we were talking about before in terms of community and opening things out, and you said that people have been coming in and appreciating the work, and that the ability to open the conversation out to past the three of us, I think for us is inestimable. I mean, the value of that. I think that a lot of people, I lived in Japan, and Japan is my other culture. And I'm aware of in Europe as well, in Asia, art, and particularly visual arts. Music is more accepted in this country, but visual arts in America are not as much a part of everyday life as they are in other countries, where in Japan you change the paintings depending on the season or the ceremonial occasion or something like that. You don't just decide what goes over the couch and it stays there for the next 50 years.
You told me that. I was amazed by that.
So, and I think that people, from when I talk to people, I find that So it's wonderful when we put up a show and a bunch of artists come. Usually, our friends come and they say, "Oh, I saw that. You're really doing nice work now." That's great. But I think a lot of people who would say, "Oh, well, I'm not an artist," and which I would argue with, of course, but they don't have the confidence to look at something and say, "I just want to take something from this for myself," and that's okay. I don't have to have some kind of an artist background, or I didn't have to be born with a brush in my hand in order to be able to look at art and let it feed me and nourish me, and understanding that it nourishes you in ways that food can't. You can go out and spend $350 on a family dinner with the wine and the drinks and all the rest of that and the heavy desserts, and after you get home, it's gone. But if you have a piece of art that and it maybe cost even less than that, that's something that you can allow to nourish you for your entire life.
That is so true.
I would like to add that please continue to follow us because the best is yet to come.
But what I was going to say about our pieces and what I hope they would take away from our collaborative work is the sense that it maybe for some people it might be more accessible because it might activate their curiosity to say, well, how could 3 people work on this one thing? How is that even possible? And so maybe they would look at it a little bit more, because I'm always disappointed when I go to an art museum and I see people wandering past beautiful pieces of art and they click a picture on their phone and they move on to the next one. They never stop to look. And to me, that is a disappointment, even if it's a Monet that they're not looking at.
Sure.
So
that's interesting because in a way, isn't that sort of like what you're always talking about, Joann, which is that it's about the process.
The process.
And where this, particularly here, we're so accustomed to thinking about end product.
Yes.
How do you get there? How do you get there faster? Yes. How do you get there more efficiently? How do you get there, whatever that ideal perfect thing is, how do you get it? And if you can't, then you're a failure, and all of the stuff that goes along with that. And instead of, so when you're faced with a picture, you look at it and you say, okay, it's a Van Gogh. Oh, I saw the Van Gogh. I saw the Starry Night. Okay, so I can check that box.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I use Starry Night because years ago I had a student, middle school student, and I used to teach art for creativity. So it wasn't just how you do drawings. It was that, but a lot of other things. So he went to the Modern Art Museum for the first time, and he saw Starry Night, and he came back into class and he was all excited, and he says, "It's 3D. It stands up." Because all they had ever seen was on the screen, right? Like that. So, and on the screen, it goes by, you say, oh, I saw it, you click it off. You get the answer to the question, you click it off. So this idea that yes, let's get some way to get people absorbed into what they're looking at. Make it a puzzle, make it a game.
I think the puzzle part is the aspect that intrigues people, because it is a puzzle. Like, how could that happen? That 3 people could work on one piece of art.
Also, maybe it will give someone who feels stress of creating a chance to create with a partner, with a friend, and just sit down one day and say, what if I drew this and I passed it to you? Can you add to it? It doesn't, and let's see what happens. Maybe they'll start to be engaged in the kind of creative process that we've been engaged. That's what I'm hoping they do. I hope it inspires them to explore with someone else or with 2 other people. The one thing I would say, they might not want to have too many people, because when you do have a large group, with people and you do something like this, it gets a little too noisy, a little too loud. That you just, unless you're working really large, like a mural, because there's a lot of communities that come together for public art that do something like this, and it's quite lovely. But something where you're mailing it back and forth to a size, you really have to think about the size and the group of it. But wouldn't it be exciting? You talk about kids, for just two of them to sit down and just, at the right time, not when you're supposed to be listening to a teacher talk, that kind of a thing.
No, it's a fascinating concept. And as an art lover, I was fortunate to grow up in a home that was always surrounded by art. We had paintings from Italy and sculptures and little things that my family had brought over. And it was always a big part of my life. My dad and my mom took us to art museums as kids. So I bring home art as souvenirs from everywhere we've traveled. My husband has traveled extensively, and I have a great deal of art all over my walls. And I know what it has done for my children, but what it has done for me, and I love imported pottery. And when I had my cafe, it was all inspired by these Mexican mugs that were all hand painted in this little village, and they were beautiful. So art takes so many forms, but it definitely impacts our world. I love going into my home because it's surrounded by art. It's beautiful. I love the colors and the shapes and the textures. And when I travel, I love to go buy art. It just is something that really fulfills me. So I am so thankful for the three of you being here today and sharing your art with this community. It is wonderful and beautiful, and I hope everyone stops into the library to take a look. It will be on display through the end of December. So thank you again.
No, thank you. Thank you. This has been lots of fun.
Absolutely.
Well, we appreciate you being here and being on our podcast. You guys were terrific.
Thanks so much.
Thanks again.
Thank you for tuning in to the Patterson Library Connection. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us grow, please share it with a friend. You can follow and subscribe to our podcast on our website at pattersonlibrary.org, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. This podcast was recorded at the Patterson Library in Patterson, New York. Special thanks to our sound engineer, producer, and composer, Adam Bernier, our library director, Stephanie Harrison, our board of trustees, and to you, our listeners. I'm your host, Lillie Misenti. We'll see you next time on the Patterson Library Connection. Patterson Library trustees and staff do not promote nor endorse the opinions of our guests.